much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to show up. But I know that listings is probably top of your minds, and if not, it should be. So I'm hoping today will be a wonderful class. The way it's going to be the best is honestly for you to participate, ask questions, share your experiences, share your feedback. I'm not the only one that has all the wisdom and answers. You guys probably have even more than I do because you're doing it more often than I am nowadays. And so I would love to hear your experiences, your questions. And so the more interactive this is, I know some of you may be multitasking and doing other things and just listening in, but the more you can jump in and share your thoughts and feedback and comments, I think it helps us. And one of the things that I love about our culture is the collaboration that we can have with each other. And I think it is something that I understand to be a little bit unique about our organization, that our agents love helping each other. And we have some incredible advisors that I know are on the call today. So I'm really looking forward to having you guys jump in and share. I know I see some of the names on here that you guys are pros and you're experienced at this, but I love that you're showing up and sharpening your skills. I think that's super important. Today, we're talking about really part one, which is the pre-listing preparation, setting yourself up to win the listing. We can talk through some resources. And again, I'd love for you to share some of the resources that you use and what works for you. I think it's very important for us. I just was teaching a class yesterday in person in Southlake, and we just talked about the importance of slowing down, preparing your materials, making sure you have your process in order to really be able to go fast later, because hopefully you will get a lot more listing opportunities. And to do that, you don't want to be scrambling around and trying to create those resources every single time that you're doing that you have the opportunity. And also, I think when you have that process, it helps you be very confident in how you present it and all of that. So anyways, I'm excited to jump in. Next, I do believe in 2 weeks, we'll do part two, which is really at the table. And what does that look like when you go to their house and the consultation? Actually, this morning I was thinking about, even part two. Part two is the longer class. Like, there's so much to talk about of the conversation. And so kind of debating on, and would appreciate y'all's feedback as well. But I feel like we almost need a part two of the second class, because it is, I think now that we're getting into all these compensation conversations, what I've heard from some of our agents, I think from 2 or 3 agents this week, that they've had very long listing appointments because of the objections or the conversations centered around the new process, compensation and just what does that look like, and should we be offering it, not offering it, and also pricing. I think pricing is a little bit more challenging, right, in the market that we've been in over the past year. So anyways, I was thinking about it this morning that we probably are going to have to expand and have more time, because what, again, I think is impactful is to have these conversations from you guys sharing your experiences. So anyways, today though, our process really is on the preparation side. What does the pre-listing process look like to help you set up to win the listing? And how do you set yourself apart and start utilizing brand resources to differentiate yourself, stand out from your competition? A lot of this information is based on Thomas Wright's Winning the Listing process. Many of you were here and able to hear him in the past. If not, we do have recordings. He's an incredible speaker. And so a lot of these are based upon his conversations that how he taught us, and that, sorry, and that anyways, he has a process and he's taught us a lot. So anyways, he's phenomenal. But what I do want to say is winning is a habit. So unfortunately, so is losing. And I think that with that, we have to have those clear processes and have that consistency in what we're doing. Okay. So I'm going to get us started and then I'm going to ask for you guys to jump in. But really, with the pre listing process, a lot of it really starts with the mindset. It starts with going in with your processes organized, then having confidence in what you're doing, what you're delivering, especially now with all these compensation conversations. I think the more we can do on the front end can help us in these conversations. Now, I know that there's a lot of conversations that are happening where people are challenging a lot more. So it just not as easy, I feel like, as it used to be, because people were, I think a lot of sellers were kind of trained in one direction, and now there's a lot of like chaos and confusion and division on how we should address all of these. But you have to be prepared. And so I think it's very important. I know I'm usually running from appointment to appointment, and I know that y'all are as well. And so I think it's important to spend 5 or 10 minutes. And I haven't always been good at doing this when I was going to a listing appointment in person, of really having like a minute to gather my thoughts, clear everything out, clear all the day before or the meetings before, the conversations before, and just have like a minute to get myself ready. So I know a lot of agents have like music they pump themselves up with. Maybe they have a song that preps them, or maybe they have like a mantra they say, or maybe it's just like taking a few deep breaths. But I do think it's important for us to not carry any negative energy into appointments. So I don't want to take that for granted. And I also think that listing is such a crucial part of our business that we can't skip steps. We can't skip steps. And when we do, especially sometimes I feel like our agents, when I talk to them, when they skip steps, it's because it's someone that they've done business with before, or it's a close friend or family member. And sometimes those are the most difficult ones because they didn't set the expectations, or they didn't do all the steps that they normally do. And so don't skip your process and your steps just because they're a repeat client or it's someone super familiar to you. In fact, I think in some cases we need to dig in more because we want to make sure that we do an incredible job with them, because we're with them more often. We see them more often. And then I think also, then it's the pre-listing consultation. So the pre-listing consultation is incredibly important. So we're going to talk through what that looks like, and the conversations. What do you give to them beforehand? Then there's the confirming the listing appointment before we meet. Most of you guys on this call probably are aware that we have, some resources that can help you with that. And then we're going to discuss through having a pre-listing packet. Do you do digital? Do you do printed copy? Do you deliver it before? And then how to prepare for that listing appointment. So I've already kind of talked a little bit about mindset, so I won't go too much deeper in it. But what I would love to do for any of you guys that are listening and able to interact a little bit is kind of, what is your process? Do you have a mindset process before you go into an appointment? Let's say you get a call from a past client, or you get a referral from another agent, or whatever it might be. You get that listing opportunity. You're excited, you're high energy, right? You're like, this is amazing. But then I think sometimes we get in our heads and we start, like, especially if we know we're competing, or I don't know, there's just all these stories in our heads. I think it's super important to have our gratitudes and our affirmations and make sure no one's hijacking your mindset on that. So, and real quick, before you guys jump in, I just want to share, this whole document is on BF Office, but 13 characteristics of a listing agent. This is something, again, that Thomas Wright had prepared and shared with us. But I think it's very important when you have a listing, we have to think of all the other opportunities. And if we're not producing opportunities off of listings, I think it's something we should talk about. Let's get in and let's figure out if there are other opportunities we can do, whether it's farming around the area, whether it's how you do your open house, and maybe having a more neighborhood outward focus. Maybe it is, what does the digital presence look like around it? So I think there's opportunities to grow when you have listings. Of course, buyers, hopefully you're attracting buyers. And so how do we grow your business using the listings that you have? So I think it's important, you want to make sure that you're hitting enough numbers of listings. Now, if you're somewhat newer in the business, you may be more buyer heavy friendly. But at some point you want to at least get kind of close to, I feel like 50-50, because listings are, they're not as easy as they were when things were selling and flying off the market. Not that they were super easy, but we did less marketing and less work. But I do think listings get you the sign in the yard, and they get you a staying presence longer than when a buyer sells a property, as far as the presence in the neighborhood and in the community. So I think it's very important, all of that. So again, these are just some different ones that are on here. Understanding the brand, having standards, having a process, being the professional, understanding the marketing, and being able to present that well, and hopefully getting referrals off of it. So I'd love for you guys, if anybody's brave enough to, we're all friends here, unmute yourself and share, like, kind of what's your mindset around listings, and maybe that's why you're here, because it's a big focus for you. So if anyone wants to unmute yourself and just share your mindset around listings, and maybe even how you prepare for a listing appointment, if you have a process, love to hear it. Anybody?
I'll jump in.
Go ahead, Adam.
Well, certainly, to piggyback on what you said, I have kind of my playlist of music I listen to kind of right before, that gets me right, my mind right, and kind of review my process. Kind of use the ninja system, if you will, in terms of just centering myself, and kind of going in knowing what my 3 or 4 objectives are, having rehearsed it before, kind of knowing what my game plan is kind of before I knock on the door. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Because I mean, I will say, like, just there was like a couple of years of, real estate where I didn't have that. And so I felt like I was just like running in the door. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I probably feel and act like a crazy person. And I probably do that in some of our meetings when I meet with you guys, where I'm doing that as well. But especially in a listing appointment, I think you just need to have that moment. So whatever that is, to get yourself high energy. And it doesn't have to be like high, like extrovert energy, just like high positive energy, right? It can still be calm. And maybe that's what we need, is some sort of a calming presence. But I love that. Anybody else?
Hi, Jennifer. It's Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Can you hear me? I'm actually walking, warming up before my
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
I love it. Yeah, that's great.
I'm a Christian, so I listen to Christian music in my car. On the way to a listing appointment, I usually remind myself that no matter what happens in the meeting and the conversation, that I love these people. And that's the feel when I get there.
I love that. That's such a great thought, is getting your mindset right about your thoughts on them, and serving them. And I love that. I love that you shared that. Thank you. Anybody else want to share? Oh, go ahead. Did you have anything else you wanted to share, or anybody else want to share?
I'm yelling at my neighbors, but really, I'm here for the listing agreement or the presentation. I usually try and sit down, and any question they might ask, I want to be prepared to answer.
Yeah.
That's really, whether it's CMAs kind of out of the neighborhood, or what happens if this happens, just look at everything that they might ask and be prepared to answer.
Yeah. So really have done your work beforehand. That's good.
Okay.
Love that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Hattie. I was just gonna say I've only worked with buyers so far, but in the thought about listing, I've made sure that when the anniversary of my buyers buying their homes coming up, I try and send them something. I try and check in with them. I had a buyer last year that moved to Dallas for the first time, and their anniversary is coming up in March, and I'm planning to send them something, just to say, welcome to Texas. Hope everything's going well. Hope you're loving your home. just something to check in to where if they're not happy and they are wanting to move or sell their home or, go back where they came from or anything like that, that they're thinking about me because I'm thinking about them.
I love that. Yeah. And I think that's a great point because I think those are creating future opportunities should they ever decide to move or change. And actually, been talking this week a lot about real estate reviews, and that's a fantastic thing to do on their anniversaries where you're just giving them a quick snapshot of what the market's doing around them. And it's perfect for people that it's not about trying to get them to list, buy or sell right now, but it's about staying in touch with them so that when that opportunity arises, they'll think of you, but also just so they're educated, just providing value to them and being that go-to resources. So I love that you're thinking about that. That's fantastic. Okay, so we will keep going, and I am sorry because I completely lost my screen. Hold on, I'm gonna stop sharing really quick because I don't know what y'all are seeing. Let me go back to not that one. Sorry. Okay, so as we jump in, there it is. Sorry, my screen switched on me. Okay, so again, I think that your mindset is very important in having that process. And I said earlier to go fast, to go slow, right? So that's very important. Okay, so let's talk about the pre-listing interview and consultation. I think this is very underutilized. I think that sometimes we're not prepared if people call to us. If we call to them, I'm assuming we're sitting down, or I don't know, sometimes we're driving or whatever. We might be multitasking depending on how well we know them. But I think it's very important for us to really understand what our clients are thinking before we ever walk in the door. And to Karen's point, to make sure that we are able to answer as many questions as possible. But also, I think it's important for us to understand where people are coming from in order to help solve their problems. And a lot of times people will tell us one thing that they're trying to do. And, kind of that old saying, I mean, I still hear people say it all the time, but where we've always said like buyers are liars. Well, I don't think that's necessarily true. And I know we're talking about sellers, but I think it's the same concept. I think it's just that they don't always know what the problem is they're trying to solve. They don't always know what they think they know what they want, but they don't always know. And I think that's where it's important as an advisor to be able to come in and really solve their problems. We need to understand what their problems are and what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to solve. I was talking with an agent this week, and she might be even on this call, but she was getting a listing prepared, and she said she had just finished the staging and the preparation, and she's like, man, and she already had it in, it was already coming soon in the MLS, and she started looking at the comps, and so she was like, I'm kind of thinking that maybe we should have priced it higher, like they could probably get higher. Well, the price was already publicized. She had already been sending it out. She had already been getting interest of people wanting to see it as soon as it went on the market. So she was like, should I change the price? Should I raise the price? And so I said, well, it depends. You really need to have a conversation with your clients as a fiduciary duty. I think it's important for you, if you feel that way, to go review the comps with your clients to understand, for them to understand and be able to make that decision. That's their decision. But at the same time, and I asked her a couple questions about their situation and their time frame and what they were doing. She was like, well, this is their situation. And I was like, well, it sounds like they might actually need to sell quickly. So they may not want to raise the price because they may be trying to attract the attention. So I was like, just go in and present the different ones and end up seeing. So that's where the beauty of these, being able to understand what's really going on with the clients, to be able to present the opportunities. So by doing it on the pre-listing side, of course, you're doing it at the listing appointment, but there's so much work that can be done in prepping the conversation before you ever get in the door so that you can have these conversations from the get-go, right? And so it's so important, obviously, to build rapport. So Ford, for anybody that might not remember, is talking about family, talking about occupation, talking about recreation, talking about dreams. So so part of that is you got to establish trust. You have to establish that relationship, and maybe you already have it with someone, and maybe you don't. But I think that it's really important that you reestablish it, even with someone maybe you haven't talked to in a while, right? And the biggest thing I feel like as a listing advisor or as a real estate advisor is when there is not trust or the trust is broken, then we have to do a lot of work to kind of reestablish that. And I feel like I'm doing that all the time with you guys, right? And so there's as well. And so I think it's important for us to make sure that we are connecting on a genuine level first for them to trust us, because then we got to have some really hard conversations, especially these days with compensation, right? And if they don't trust us, then they're just going to challenge us over and over. So I think it's very important for us to ask questions. Y'all have probably heard me say this a lot over the past year, that we need to do a better job of asking questions. I need to do a better job of listening and asking questions, looking at their, if they're on the phone, listening to the tone. If you're in person, obviously tone and body language. But in the pre-listing interview, and we have a worksheet that's on BF Office under the listing resources folder, but it just starts with foundational questions and it builds to deeper questions. So for any of those that have gone through Ninja or that are going to the Ninja installation, you're going to love it. But this is a huge part of the process, and I think it's one that a lot of agents skip, and I think it's a shame because it even if you didn't answer or ask every single question, I think it's very important to start with those foundational questions, get them answering, get them responding, and then build up to deeper questions that you may be waiting to have at the table that you could ask ahead of time. And it'll save you time at the appointment table, and two, it'll help you know how to prepare best when you're talking about pricing and the strategy for marketing and what they want to do. So, one of the things you can say is just to tee it up. It's all right with you. I'd love to ask you a few questions, and this will help set up our time together, so that we can focus on the most important things, right? So this will just take us a few minutes, and is now an okay time with you. So you could just say something as simple as that, and let it roll off your tongue. Okay. So this is the pre-listing interview. This is not something that your clients necessarily see, but I will say I always bring this to my appointments and I'll say when we're at the listing table, if it's okay with you, I'm just going to take some notes to help me collect all the information that you're sharing with me. But this way I already have all of these things. So again, it's just kind of, as far as like name, I know that's super basic, and obviously this is a sheet for you. Make sure you have both sellers or all the sellers involved. Make sure you understand the names that that are going to be involved in the process, that it's legal names. Check tax records beforehand before you go
I've been
into
doing
it.
it for a long time.
Hold on just a
That
second.
probably would be good for my osteoporosis.
Let me mute. Hold on just a second.
He's reading it.
Oh,
Okay, hold
this puppy is so sweet. He's so worried about you.
I don't know if I can mute.
He's like, what?
Hey, Karen. Karen.
All his toys up for that.
Let's see if she can mute herself.
It's not a person, it's a turtle.
Hold on. Let me see if I can mute Karen.
Oh
Hold
my
on.
gosh, she's so cute.
I know.
It won't let me mute her.
We used to have one back in the way back day. Yes, they are very energetic. Yes, they need a lot of.
Do you feel like
Hey,
you need
Karen.
two walks today?
Somebody might need to send Karen a message to mute herself. It won't let me mute her.
Jennifer.
Okay. Yes.
Can you mute her down at the bottom?
Lifestyle as well. We're like,
Hold on, Brenda. I can't hear you, and it won't let me mute Karen. Sorry. Hold on.
rescue, or did you buy him through it?
No, we got them from
We
God.
got him. Okay, that's the person that.
We had another one from him.
Okay.
Shoot.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
God.
Okay. I know
Smell
what I
my
can do. Hold
dog.
on.
You
Hold on.
smell my dog.
Claim the host. Okay. Here we go.
It wasn't
I can't do that.
a long time ago. Yeah, and unfortunately.
Hold on, guys.
got out.
Let me call Karen really fast.
That's
so
super
sad.
sad. He was a very sweet
Hey,
dog,
Karen.
very energetic. He He really has two speeds. He's
Hold
really
on.
he's all cheese go.
Did you just move here?
I know, I looked at my
Where did you?
Here.
Okay, I'm gonna let y'all go
Okay.
get back to my meeting, but meet everybody.
I tried to call her and I sent her a text, so I don't know if she'll see it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Hey, Karen, now that you're back, will you mute yourself? I can't mute you. So we were listening to your conversation.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
sorry.
that is totally fine. I just wanted to let you know. Okay.
Neighbor.
So,
Actually, I sold a house for one of them this year. But anyway,
oh, I love that. Well, good job.
I'm so sorry. I ruined the meeting.
Oh, it's totally fine. No worries. So anyways, make sure you understand who the decision makers are in the process and make sure you're checking it with tax records beforehand. And then just simple questions. Why are you selling? When do you need to move? All these things are just getting them to talk. These are easy questions, right? Understanding how long they've owned the home. But then we start getting into some deeper questions. I love these questions. I use this all the time. So when you bought your home, what did you love about it? What made you buy it? What are your favorite features, right? This is starting to then help you think about your romance, thinking about the amenities, thinking about all these things. What updates have you done, right? And usually this is easy. They're happy to share all these things. Then maybe just say, if you were to continue to stay here for more years, what are the things on your list? What would you want to do? And here's why: is you want to start understanding the condition of the home, what needs to be done as you're preparing kind of your preparing the home to get on the market. You're also wanting to start kind of developing your strategy of what that looks like. Thomas Wright always talks about kind of his ABC list of A's are things that have to be done before the photos. And before we get it on the market. B are the things we hope you will do and invest in and get done. And C are the things that would be like, I'd be over the moon if you did. That's deeper, like a remodel, that's a bigger thing, right? But so these questions are just helping you right now start preparing. So, and I do love this question as well. I don't say it the way it's on the sheet, but just, I would say, one of the things I always tell sellers is, look at the home from a buyer's eyes. When you walk in the door, like fresh slate, what would you say its condition? Or sometimes I'll just leave out that question and I'll ask it more at the listing appointment. And I'll just say, so if, just kind of on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being amazing model condition home, what would it, what would you rate your home right now? And what would it take to get it to be a 10? I do like that question because I think sellers sometimes they only think through the seller's mind and they don't think through buyers' minds. And now we've got to get them to start looking at their home through what a buyer looks like, how a buyer looks at it, right? Sorry, a lot of distractions today. I apologize. So what, and then also some agents say they don't like to ask this question. I think it's important to understand where they're at. So figure out what comes natural for you. But, do you have a price in mind that you're wanting to get for your property? Do you have a bottom line number, or do you have, what you think you would be wanting to list your home for? And I understand some people will say, well, you're the expert. That's why I'm calling you in to say, hey, I completely understand. And we're going to do that. But usually someone has a number in mind that they need to walk away with, or, you've been watching kind of the market, and I'm sure as you've been preparing to put your home on the market. So usually people have an idea in mind. And I just want to make sure that we're kind of in line with where you're thinking, or you can decide what you want to think. And again, sometimes people push back over and over. If you can't get an answer, that's fine, move on. But I do think it's important to ask clarifying questions. It's because sometimes people just want to challenge you, right? Just to challenge you and kind of throw you off. Don't let it throw you off. Just know how you would answer that question, because invariably someone will ask you, right? Then, as far as, do you have a loan on your property? Yes or no? What I would recommend, we're going to do a net sheet when we kind of talk through the value of your home. I would recommend, I don't know if off the top of your head, do you know about how much you owe? If not, that's fine. But you probably will want to go back and before we meet and go ahead and do look at your mortgage statement, or go get, a statement from your lender. of how much you owe on the property. So when we sit down and get to that point, we do a net sheet. I'm going to use that amount, and that way we can look at what your net amount will be after your house is paid off. Have you recently refinanced? So these are, again, just some good questions to go. So then this is the thing. And I did this in Ninja, one of our Ninja groups, we did it sometime in the fall, and we went through this spreadsheet or this sheet, and we were like, how would we answer these questions? What would we ask? What would we not ask? So some of these questions are some of those that are like, oh, I don't feel comfortable asking. That's fine. Make this your own, or find out what you would ask. But I wouldn't say what are 3 things you're looking for in a realtor, but I would say, I'm so grateful that you called me and that you're considering me to represent you. I'd love to know what's important to you. What's the most important to you as you're hiring, an advisor to work for you? What's important to you? A lot of times they'll say communication, marketing, bringing a buyer, but it's just, again, helping you understand what they're looking for. So when you tailor the conversation at the listing table, you understand where their mindset is. I've had agents that have said they've lost listings. Later they've called the seller and said, well, I thought we had a great meeting, and I'm disappointed, not to get that opportunity to work with you, but I'd love some feedback. And sometimes the feedback has been simple things that they do already, but they just don't tackle. They just didn't tackle it at that meeting, right? And so I think it's important for us to understand what that is. One of the agents shared with me, this other agent that won the listing said, well, we hire a stager to stage all of our houses. And she's like, I do that too, but she never brought it up, but she didn't know that was important. And look, the sellers may or may not always tell you, but that's where I think sometimes we just need to slow down and ask questions, whether it's right now, and also at the table, where it's say, hey, is there anything else that's important to you that we didn't talk about today? Right? Because that way you give them an opportunity to pause and to think. And I think sometimes we're rushing through. I totally do it all the time. But to say, is there anything else that's important to you that we didn't cover today? And so it's helpful for you to know ahead of time, right? Some people ask, are you interviewing other brokers for this job? Sometimes you already know because they volunteered it at the beginning. I don't necessarily ask the question this way, and I don't say who it is and what company are they coming and what time. But there's a philosophy that people say, I want to be first or I want to be last. And so I think it's okay to say, if you don't know this person or they're being if they were referred to you, I think it's okay to say, and this is kind of that whole full fee agent of, who are you? Are you the favorite of the fool? Right. So it's helpful to know if they're talking to other people. I think it's okay. And even the question of, have you considered going for sell by owner? Some people are like, I don't want to put that in their head. They've already thought about this stuff, right? They already know if they're doing this or not. For 95% of the time. So I'd love to know your thoughts on that. But real quick, I'll just finish this. But have you sold a property before? Is this your first house to sell? Or when was the last time you sold it? Because the process has changed and different. So it's important for you to understand their expectations and their past experiences. And then just, is there anything else I should know? Do you have any questions for me? And then setting the expectation of what happens next. And so do y'all have any thoughts? I'd love to hear, are you guys using something like this? Are there some questions that you really, are like, oh, I haven't been using that, but I love, or are there some that you're like, I hate that question. I would never say that. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I used to avoid that question. It was,
which one?
Are there other agents that you're talking to?
Okay. Yeah.
I grew into it, I tend to be in the camp that asks to go last.
Okay.
And I can speak to a listing that I got because I went last.
Yep.
And I knew who I was up against.
Yeah.
Really top
because
broker.
you knew what they were sharing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that. Like just kind of giving us an example, what made you then win it because you went last?
Kind of a couple things. First, he tried to sell it on his own.
Okay.
He is a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Those are always tough.
Right. And so the deal fell out.
Okay.
And so I kind of had that information. I knew that information, and then I knew who he was interviewing. And we ended up getting it. So, but I think asking that question prevented this kind of level of uncomfortableness, like, which is, oh, you're interviewing other people. Whereas sometimes I'm just more assumptive. I think I'm the only one in the running. Like, I feel like I've already established that relationship. So why would you be interviewing other people? Because I'm obviously your favorite.
Right. You assume it. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of, yeah. I will say one other thing, and I don't want to hijack too much time here, but
that's okay. Go ahead.
I do want to speak to the pre-listing packet and just dealing with something kind of in the current, because I'm about to take a new listing or very soon, is motivation. And in that, the motivation of the seller. And sometimes sellers have couples, that is, have different motivations. To the one side of it, it may be a divorce, God willing, and God forbid. But on the other side of it, it may be just as simple as one spouse doesn't want to move and the other spouse realizes they have to move. So then it's just asking those right questions and knowing how to kind of talk between both spouse in understanding and listening, and so that they both are heard. I'm kind of dealing with that right now.
And that's why it is so important to understand, because we need to understand that stuff. It will help us understanding that stuff going ahead of time, because it really helps us streamline our approach and know how to kind of attack the conversation and not waste a lot of time going in one direction and then like having to completely pivot. Or, terrible would be that you didn't realize what was happening, and so you never addressed what they really needed or hit what they needed, and they went with someone else because someone else realized it. So I think those are really good points. I love that. That's great.
Hi, Jennifer.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Hi, Jennifer. Sometimes when I talk with my clients and we talk about the agreement that they need to sign before to show the properties or to buy or to sell, sometimes I feel like they don't like it. They don't like to sign this, and they of course they have other realtors that can help them, but when these parts happened, I feel like they don't like it.
So you're talking about on the buy side, right? That buyers don't want to sign something. So, and I will say, if it is your listing, since we're talking about listings, that you don't have to have them sign something for them to come. If it's not on the buy side, it is hard. It is a challenge. And I think it's okay to say, let's just do the one time and let's see if this is a good working relationship. I would love to see if that matches as well. So let's just do this one-time agreement to go look at this house. Let's have some time to work together. And, I'd love to sit down with you, do a buyer consultation so I can really solve your problems. But if you're not at that point right now and you want to just, go take a look at this house and you feel like it's a good opportunity just to go build rapport, just do the one-time thing. I think is a little easier. And I will say, if let's say it's a Briggs Freeman listing, you can go show them without having a buyer's rep because it's within the brokerage. So just to clarify that. However, I will say, and I was talking with an agent about this right when all this stuff came out, is that you're still putting yourself at risk because, they could then just go either straight to the listing agent or I don't know. So you need to decide your process and figure out that conversation And we can kind of talk through that at some point of like how to approach it, because I think it's a good conversation we need to continue to get comfortable with, is how to have that buyer conversation with them of approaching it, because they are leery. I was listening to an objection handling video or something the other day, and the guy just kept asking questions of like, well, because in this scenario, the pretend buyer was backing off because they were like, well, I don't want to sign anything. And they're like, well, my other realtor didn't make me sign anything. And so the realtor was very nice. And he was just like, I totally understand that. I get that it feels, like a big commitment. However, it is, the Texas real estate laws that, and if the other realtor didn't do it, it may have been that was, how long ago was that? Maybe it was before these laws changed, but now it's just really a protection for you and for me to have clarification on, representation for this particular house. So I think it's just trying to figure out the conversation on that. But if it is your listing, you do not have to have a signed buyer's representation agreement to show your listing, just to clarify that. So any other thoughts or questions?
I love the question, how long has it been since you've sold a house? Because one thing Katie and I our kind of market is people that have raised their kids, in their home.
Yes.
And now and people don't realize how different the house has to look like nobody lives there. And
Yes.
That's a big shock for a lot of people. And so doing that, at the pre-listing, like how long has it been since you've been through this process? Because I think it sets expectations for people, because sometimes it'll take a month or two for someone who's lived in their house 10, 15 years to really get it pared down. So I love that. I don't go about it that way, but I like that question. I'm going to tuck that in my information.
I love that. That's your nugget for today, Renee.
That's one of many. There've been many, but yes, that's a good one.
Well, I love it. And, it's like, no matter how long we've been doing this, and even honestly, every time I teach this class, I'm like, oh, that's something that I have forgotten. And I need to make sure that when I have those opportunities, or when I go with an advisor on an appointment, that I need to make sure that question is getting asked beforehand as well. And I think there's we skip a lot of these steps at the beginning. And I do really think that it helps us set the expectations better at the table, or understand how to attack that. So I'm glad that you shared that. And I think it's really important to have some of these pre-listing interview forms, also the buyer ones, although we're not going over the buyer one today, but it's important to have some of these just printed out, have a few in your office, have a few in a file folder in your car, because we know we're always in the car. And the biggest thing I would say is you need to figure out how to word it yourself so that it doesn't sound like you're going through a questionnaire, right? And you can even put this as a note on your phone. Maybe you want to have it as a note on your iPad or your phone, so that if you had the opportunity to do it, with them on the fly, you just have it in front of you. Because I think when we start skipping some of those questions, it just invariably, it can come up and bite us. And if you do skip some steps, then at the beginning, when you sit down at the table, obviously you can review, but this saves you some time. And the other thing I would say is we just have to get comfortable practicing the language. Like I said, when we sat down and did it in a ninja group, some people, we reworded some of the questions in the way that the advisors were like, this feels better for me, or this feels more like how I would say it, how I would talk. So I think that's super important. And then I think it's like setting up pre-listing, setting up the appointment, pre-listing emails, and start engaging them. So we're going to get into talking about setting up the expectations of when we get there, what happens, what the conversation is. Many of you that are on this call that have been here for a while, you probably send the email that we have in ReChat that we kind of got from Thomas Wright of like, here's the 3 steps of what to be prepared for when you go on the appointment. I think that's really important. And it has a link in there of a property journey to Sotheby's. It has a link to a listing appointment, and you can change the links to whatever you want. And then we're going to talk also about, I would love to hear, are you guys doing a digital pre-listing presentation? Are you like a packet, or are you dropping something off at their house before, or maybe a mix of both? What does that look like? But when we do all of this work beforehand, we're already getting people to buy into us, to trust us, to see we have a process, to see we're professional. And it really starts, it also can save us a lot of time at the listing table, and maybe preempt some questions with that. So, in the ReChat newsletters, I'm not going to go into super detail, but it does talk about how to prepare. This is an email you can send, and it just kind of says, thanks for taking the time to meet next week, or whenever you need to go in and edit that, to meet on Friday, 5 p.m. to discuss putting your home on the market. We look forward to meeting with you. And when we arrive, it has these things. What I would recommend is that you go into yours and make this sound like yourself. I think that's very important to do. And I can show you an example of one that I just saw another agent in some of his email templates. And I can even email it out to you guys. I need to look to see who's all on this call. So I can email out, some examples of how he worded it. But this is, I think, important to set up that. And then it has the links at the bottom. Send this email to yourself, check the links, make sure they all work. And again, if you have a specific pre-listing presentation or a meet me video or something, you can change any of these little squares at the bottom to yourself. There are some other emails, why us, who are we? So if the people are like, I'm not quite ready, but you want to kind of stay engaged with them, there are some different newsletters and ReChat that you could look through to see what you might be able to extend the process and the conversation with them to kind of stay in front of them. So I'm going to stop sharing just really quick and ask you guys, what I would love to know is, are you guys using some sort of pre-listing packet, whether it's digital or print, and what is your process? Anybody?
I mean, on a case-by-case basis, I would say,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with, did I send them a real estate review in the past? If I did, was that printed? Was that emailed? I know technically, ideally, it should be printed and dropped off. It might be how they respond. If they respond to me more electronically, if they like hard, if they might be an older demographic, I might print it out. If they're a little bit younger, I may email it.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And you already have it prepared, right?
I need to update. Yeah, but I do need to update it. It feels a little stale. So
this is the season to update, right? So this is the perfect time to do that. I wanted to share. Okay, so this is, whoops, I lost my screen again. I'm sorry. This is the hold on. Apologize. I'm not on my normal screen, so it's a little bit clunky. I apologize. I wanted to share just really quick. This is an email of how someone took this email and kind of made it their own. Here's what to expect from our meeting, home tour. We're going to wander through your space, look to see what's special for you. Anything that's a bit of a headache, I'm all ears. We'll jot down some notes. Now, again, you may be like, that does not sound like me, and that's super casual and doesn't sound as professional. Totally fine. I just wanted you to see another idea, getting to know each other. I'm going to share a bit about my journey in real estate, what drives me, and how I can make this process smooth for you. I'm going to introduce you to the world of Sotheby's International Realty, what sets you apart, and give you, how I plan to give your home the spotlight it deserves. Market insights and strategy. We're going to dive into the market, check out some homes currently on the market, what's recently sold, and chat about how fast homes are moving. And then, he just talks about, I've got a little bit of homework for you. Check out this video. And then, so that's just a way to do it, right? That's just taking the email and taking it a little bit from where it's super bullet pointed and straight. Now, if you have power personalities, you may want to keep it that way. This is more of kind of an emotional, wordy email, right? So you need to decide what works for you and what works for your seller, right? As you check out some personalities. So one of the things I wanted to share with you is this was an example that I just saw, and we have a lot of resources with here at Briggs Freeman Sotheby's International Realty for you. One of the things that marketing created in the fall was, or some maybe in the summer, with all this compensation conversations, they created some really good, I feel like, sellers guides and just, you know, kind of things that you can use. And there's a couple different formats. They also created a marketing piece. And so I can show you those in just a minute. This is one I just came across and I was like, wow, I really like this. Whoops. What he had was he had his reviews in here. He had an about me and then measurable results. And then he goes into kind of the listing presentation that's part of, you know, Sotheby's and he's with Atlanta Fine Homes. And so this is all the Sotheby's stuff, right? This is all the stuff in there. But he talks about representing all price points, talks a little bit about, he has a page on Atlanta Fine Homes. And so you could do the Briggs Freeman. He also has his website, which is fine. If you don't have one, just do the Briggs Freeman. Also, we have the SIR one. Then he kind of included some of like understanding the market value, which I think is genius because, and I'll go over this more in our next class, part 2, in a couple of weeks, but talking about market value of your home and what it is not, that can really help. But again, if you're sending this to them ahead of time, think about how great this looks of showing your process, navigating the pre-listing process, preparing your home for sale. I'm just going to drop this in the link, in the chat, if you guys want to take a look at this. But I know I sent an email to Sherry of, Sherry and Maria can help. I would work with Sherry on it first. And I did send an email to Sherry and Maria of like, hey, I'm going to show this. And so I know advisors are going to ask, but yes, we do help you customize these things. You do not have to customize the booklets. What you could do is just have your own separate little thing. Like you could have the Sotheby's piece, and then you could just have, here's kind of navigating through the listing process and about me and navigating the listing process. And it could be a separate piece as well. Or you could make it all together. Obviously, there's a cost to do all of this. There is a template with this, Jorge. There's in My Marketing Matters, I know that they have a template. Their template is a little bit, it doesn't have all of the listing stuff involved. It's more of a pre-listing process where it has your cells, where it has your testimonials. And so you can go in and just populate the information in My Marketing Matters. But I would sit down with Sherry and talk through what this looks like. We do have the marketing piece already that marketing put together last year. And so I'll show you where that's at as well. But I just thought this was really nice. And then he just kind of goes in. I have this as a separate piece in mind, but like a photo shoot checklist, he just put it all in his. Talks about inspections, pre-inspections, which a lot of people don't do pre-inspections right now, but just seller's disclosure, the appraisal process, inspection process, the closing process, pre-closing, closing checklist. I was like, wow, this is really, really nice. So our template is not quite like that. But I will show you, let me just bring up, excuse me. So one of the things down here with these one sheets. So first of all, the listing presentation, and I know marketing's, they're always working on updating theirs as Sotheby's updates theirs. So in the spring, they'll be doing that as soon as they get all the market stats and everything. But in this one sheets and more down here under the marketing quick links, this is where there's a marketing plan right here. So this is a really great piece. So you don't have to have it all in that one. I mean, that he's like really worked on it. He's probably spent a lot of money putting that together, but we already have all of these pieces together. And what I would recommend is that you get these printed. I mean, you can just buy some nice paper and keep it in your office, and then you can print it at the offices. But just go get some like heavier stock of paper And then when you're ready, put these pieces together, and then you can put them in a blue folder together, right? And then there's some other things in here, the agent value wheel, there is benefits of staging. So there's a bunch of one-sheeters in here, and I would recommend that you go in and you take a look at the resources that you have available to you. And then, as far as the listing presentation there, and this is actually one of those one-pagers, here are the resources. So there's a pre-listing agent brochure, and that's the template I was mentioning through My Market Matters. Now, My Market Matters, you get through ReChat. So, and all you do is go look at one of your deals or go create a fake deal and go to the, I can show you really quick. When you go to one of your deals, like I create fake ones for training all the time. So you can just create a fake one. Go into the deal and go into this marketing tab. And then it has My Marketing Matter right here. You can do it through ExpressDocs, but I believe that pre-listing template is in My Marketing Matters. And so you just connect right here. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. I'm sorry, I'm skipping around. But anyways, there is the pre-listing agent brochure. And for $15, it's only like $78 to go in. Now that is using their template. If you want to do a whole custom one, and I did send that link to Sherry this morning because I just found that yesterday and I was like, wow, that's really impressive. I love that. So maybe I can convince, I'll talk to our marketing team about updating the template and see if we can add some more things in there. But you can go in and also customize the listing presentation as well. And then this just gives you some information about some other places that you can go. And that's one of the one-sheeters. And then also, in here, I just wanted to show you this listing presentation tab. It has that issue magazine of the listing presentation in here. This isn't customized. Now, can you go in and customize it? Yes, but it will, you'll have to, it'll be a little bit of a cost. And there is that issue format. Here's the link. And this is a link that is on that pre-listing email that is in ReChat. This is one of the links that they can go straight to this. Okay. And then the other thing I was going to show you on here is this listing resource tab. We try to put a lot of this information together. So right now I'm primarily working out of this pre-listing resource folder, but there's also listing appointment folder and managing the listing. And there's a lot of good stuff in here, like the home history book. That is something I feel like our advisors used a lot. In years past. I don't see as many people using it now, but I love this book because, and we have it printed, you can buy it printed from the store. And sometimes I'll just get a couple of these books and I'll just keep it with me. Sorry, it's taking a minute for my email to come up. But what it does is it goes in and it talks about how to make your, like basically talking about the history of your home, telling a story. So one of the things we have got to get better at as advisors is telling a story with the home. Even if it is a cookie cutter neighborhood, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, or, I'm just using that example, in a neighborhood where there's a bunch of same ones around. Well, what is special about it? Are there any special, even if it's more of a special memory, or maybe there's a special window nook, or there's like, this is the favorite room of the house, or maybe they built this really cool little outdoor patio and this is like where the family loves to hang out and entertain. Or I think we just like, sometimes we get so factual. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2-car garage, and it's 2,500 square feet. And while we say that, when we're doing the property romance, which is why we call it a romance instead of just a description, is we need to tell the story to sell the home. And I think these kind of questions in here. So sometimes what I would do is after I get the listing, I would go in and go through this book and I would write this out. But I would have a marketing meeting with my clients. Let's go in and let's really talk about this and really work through it together on the marketing side. And maybe there's nothing super cool or special architecturally or anything like that. But you got to find a story in order to really sell it. So this is just a fun booklet. You don't have to use it, but I do know there are some agents that have used that where they had the clients that maybe had great handwriting and they even filled it out, and they have that book laying open on the counter for showings and for open houses. So that's a really cool thing. There's a photo shoot staging guideline PDF in here. That pre-listing email, if you want to read what it has, it's in here, but that email is in ReChat where you can send it. This step to sold and who is the buyer, I think this is really important for you guys to review as you're preparing the property, like before the launch. And these are conversations you can have with your client at the table. Is, you know, who do you think the buyer is? And that's why we ask the question of where's the you know, what made you buy the home, right? So I just wanted to show you some of these resources, but what I would love for you to do is really think about, what do you need to do to streamline your resources? What's the work that needs to be done now? Start, you know, setting up some time. So before, especially before, I know people are already busy, but especially before the spring really hits, because I do think listings are going to continue to pick up and we're going to have a more traditional spring market than we've had in years. Be ready so that you feel super confident and you have the materials that you want when you go into the appointments. So do you guys have any questions or anything y'all want to add on that? I didn't really go through my slideshow. I kind of got off, but
Jennifer, can I say something real quick?
yes, please.
If the buyer and seller guides, you know,
Mhm.
if you're able to download them into a PDF, then if you purchase the Adobe Acrobat Pro version, it is very easy to modify those documents. You can remove pages, you can change pages around, you can actually like take out content. You can completely customize it, you know, on your own. And Acrobat Pro is a really
Okay.
good resource for that.
Yeah. And if you don't have time or you don't want to worry about that, or you're not a designer, or you're like, I just need it, you know, then it's okay to have the, you know, the marketing, have the marketing team help you. But yeah, if you have the time and you want to go in and kind of really play with it and you have those skills, then there are definitely ways that you can go in and kind of work through that. But don't feel like you have to do it all on your own. But I do think it is important that you have a way that you're giving your bio kind of about me, you know, and your testimonials. You're delivering a marketing plan and how to prepare your home to sell. Obviously, you're going to review information on the market, and you may want to show examples of your marketing materials and bring documents they want to sign. So you just need to figure out your process. Is some of this given before, or is some of this given at the appointment? And what does that look like? So any other thoughts or questions? I'm going to read through my slides just to make sure I didn't forget anything as you guys are talking. Nobody else? Okay. So, well, what I recommend is that you sit down and really like go through the guides, like Brenda was just talking about, the buyer and seller guides, the pre-listing materials that you want to use. And it like I said, that the guy that I showed you that example, he probably spent some pretty good money kind of working with the marketing team at his company, getting that together. I love that it's all in one, but you don't have to have it that way. You actually may like segmenting it out, putting it together in a folder. I think also when you're going on an appointment to, let's say maybe your process is when it's a home over 2 million, this is my process. And when it's under 2, or maybe it's over 1 million, whatever you feel like the break is, it's like, maybe this is my process is all digital at this price point, and maybe I go and drop off, or I FedEx, or I mail, have a courier or somebody go drop off something of a folder of some sort with the information in prior to our appointment, which also is when you have the pre-listing consultation, you may not want to, you know, what they're like, can you come this afternoon? Well, no, because you haven't had time to prepare. And so it's like, well, I can come do a quick walkthrough of the home. and we can have some conversation. But then what I'd like to do is have a second conversation where I can really sit down and have some time to prepare. Don't let these sellers rush your process. And I think it's important for us to have that process. And I know that we can adjust the timeline as needed, but I think sometimes then we skip these steps, and then it puts us in a bad position because later we're just not totally ready for it. So I just think it's important for us to control the process. And I think it's important, as they're paying us as a professional advisor, going kind of to our fee and earning our fee, is like, I have a process that I know is proven and that it works. And so what I'd love to do is walk you through the whole process. And so to do that, I really need 24 or 48 hours to be able to sit down and really work through and prepare, or do that 2-step process where it's like, I'll come and do an initial consultation. Let's go ahead and set up both meetings. We'll do that. That'll maybe be 30 minutes. And then we'll come and do, an hour meeting or something like that. So again, you decide your process, and it might differ per client and per price point as well. Any other questions or thoughts or anything? I know it's, we're on time, so past time, so I don't want to keep you guys. Nope. There is a preparation for listing appointment checklist in that folder that I showed you. And then I think it's important just to kind of get yourself prepared and ready to go for the appointment. So that is all I have. I will do part 2 in a couple of weeks. And then the other thing I just want to mention is, after that, I think a couple weeks later, we'll do a managing the listing class. That really talks about when you have a contract, or not when you have a contract. It's that, but also when it's on the market and you're just trying to communicate to your seller and what you need to be doing to manage that listing. And then also the process of being under contract and having a contract checklist. And then also, if you, we do have a Cloud CMA class. I'll put one on the schedule for us to do. If you haven't used that tool or want a refresher, we'll have one of those coming up as well. And a lot of our classes are under the Success Center on BF Office. So if you want to just kind of get in and dig around, that is a place to go. We're trying to get in and update our classes and everything, so we'll work on that as well. So, but I really appreciate you guys chiming in today, giving some good input, and hopefully that was valuable. If you have any further questions or anything we didn't cover, or you want to spend some time working on your marketing materials, please set up a meeting with Sherry. Get on her calendar, and she's happy to help you work through this. And if she's not available, meet with your VP of sales. We're all available to help you work through this as well, brainstorm ideas, and make it specific for you. So that is all I have. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and go win some listings. Go get some listing appointments, and let's work on winning those listings. All right. Bye, you guys. Have a good one.